In the absence of these 6 characteristics, old age is a truly terrible experience. According to specialists and senior citizens who have gone through it, do you ever find yourself wondering what it is that makes old age so bad for people who did not make preparations? There is no reason to be concerned about the gray hair, wrinkles, or slower pace. The absence of certain essential things is what gives our latter years the sense of meaning, connection, and joy that we look forward to. Far too many individuals have the misconception that old age and misery are unavoidable. That feelings of isolation, boredom, and sorrow are simply a natural part of the area. On the other hand, that is not even close to being accurate. What is it that genuinely differentiates the two? There are 6 basic but vital components that the majority of people do not even realize they are lacking. And these components are what differentiate a life of solitude and suffering from one of peace and dignity. In this video, we are going to go over 6 things that every person needs in order to feel complete, appreciated, and alive when they are in their 70s and beyond. In no way are these luxury. They are not tough to understand. On the other hand, when they are absent, the days begin to feel longer, the nights get more lonely, and the spirit experiences a slight decrease. At first glance, these would appear to be quite modest. However, behind the surface, they possess the ability to alter the way in which you navigate through this period of your life. Stay here with us, because by the time you reach the conclusion of this video, you will not only have an understanding of what has been lacking, but you will also know exactly how to begin bringing it back. Having these 6 things is not merely a pleasant thing to have. In their absence, old age might have a hollow feeling. However, when you are with them, a change occurs, joy returns, confidence develops, and you remember who you are, not just who you used to be. It's time to get started. A daily routine that serves a purpose is the first and most important factor. When one does not have a daily sense of purpose, the days start to become hazy. You get up, go about your daily activities, and by the time evening rolls around, you find yourself wondering where the time has gone. But the clock is not the only thing to consider. This is all about the sensation, that nagging feeling that something significant is lacking, even if you are unable to pinpoint exactly what it is that you are missing. This is due to the fact that purpose, even in its most basic form, is what provides structure to time and meaning to motion. It is not necessary for it to be grand. The only thing that matters is that it feels like it. Allow me to tell you about Walter, a retired mechanic who is 76 years old and spent the first few years of his retirement simply having a relaxing time. At first, it was a sensation of liberation. There are no deadlines or alerts. But with time, his vitality began to diminish. After that, his disposition changed. It became difficult for him to sleep. Restlessness gradually replaced the sensation of relaxation that had been present. When he was asked how he spent his days, he paused and was unable to provide a satisfactory response. It was the silence that revealed the narrative. Humans are hardwired to have a sense of rhythm and purpose in their lives. Moreover, this requirement does not go away as we become older. It takes on an even greater priority. When it comes to happiness, older folks who have the greatest focus are frequently the ones who are the happiest, not the ones who have the most freedom. On a daily basis, they pay attention to their garden. On a daily basis, they read one new chapter. They call a friend, write letters, organize drawers, and feed birds, besides other things. These rituals might appear to be mundane, but in reality, they are anything but. These things are anchors and lifelines. The framework for the day is established by a routine that serves a function. It enables you to wake up with a purpose and have a sense of fulfillment when you go to bed. Not only does it provide your mind with something to anticipate, but it also provides your body with something to strive toward and your heart with something to keep open to. What's more, it opens up opportunities for people to connect with one another. Check-ins are required. Progress is shared by you. You are a teacher. You pay attention. But when you take away structure, when days go by without any direction or a point of reference, Loneliness begins to take hold. You start to have the impression that you are not living but floundering. This is the point at which melancholy develops, not as a result of a single occurrence but to the gradual loss of significance. Therefore, if you are experiencing that dull emptiness, the kind that does not yell but rather gently sinks in, you should ask yourself what your days are constructed around. The next step is to pick just one item, something to do every morning or evening, something to tend to, something to track, or something to return to. A single thread has the potential to become a lifeline, not only to a better day, but also to a better version of yourself. The second habit is the practice of preserving one's physical vitality through the practice of little habits. Maintaining a healthy body is only one aspect of physical energy. Keeping oneself actively involved in life is the key. You will notice that everything else begins to feel heavier as soon as your body begins to slow down. Even if it is only little, activities that were previously simple now feel like they are a burden. Simply getting out of bed, preparing a meal, and going to the shop all require a little bit more effort than they would otherwise. People start to withdraw, not because they are lazy, but because their bodies no longer feel like allies. This happens when the effort that they are making is not supported by tiny habits that they maintain consistently. Take, for instance, Harold, who was 81 years old and had always been robust in his activities. After a sudden sickness, however, he decided to reduce the amount of time he spent moving around, even if it was only for a few weeks. However, the weeks eventually grew into months. His muscles became weaker, his joints became stiffer, and his confidence slowly but surely diminished. Almost immediately, even short walks became scary. When Harold was younger, he was unaware of something that is now being emphasized by medical professionals. The power of regular, small-scale physical habits is frequently greater than the strength of occasional, large-scale efforts. Forget about going to the gym. The use of heavy weights or sessions lasting an hour are not required. Movement that is tailored to your current state is just what you require. A 10-minute stretch in the morning, a brief resistance band workout in the afternoon, and standing leg lifts while brushing your teeth are all great ways to get your body moving. These seemingly insignificant details add up. They keep the blood flowing, protect the joints, and sustain the strength of the body. The most essential thing, however, is that they serve as a reminder that your body is still capable. And the sense that you are still capable of doing things is one of the most powerful antidotes to the pain that comes with getting older. When you move your body, your mind moves along with it. The level of energy increases. The mood gets better. Rather than dreading the day, you look forward to it with excitement. To add insult to injury, even the smallest of physical exertions can instill a sense of pride in you. That is not the kind that results from comparison, but rather the kind that is quiet. I am the kind of person who says, I came to work for myself today. It is not a lack of desire that numerous senior citizens encounter as a hurdle. It is a belief that if they are unable to perform the same tasks that they used to, then it is not worth performing at all. Nevertheless, that is a perilous myth. The reason for this is that the things you do today do not necessarily have to be the same as the things you did previous. It is sufficient for it to maintain your sense of strength, steadiness, and mobility. That is sufficient. Yes, that is more than sufficient. Additionally, when you choose to exercise your body in any way, even if it is only slightly, you are not only preserving your health, you're taking back the space that you once had in the world. Do you mean to suggest that I still have a place here? There are still people I need to show up for, places I need to go, and things I need to take care of. I would appreciate it if you could use the second comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. The presence of an emotional connection with other people is the third important factor. When it comes to old age, one of the most inconspicuous forms of sorrow is not physical, but rather emotional. On top of that, it frequently starts with something as inconspicuous as a delay in communication. A few missed calls, fewer invites, or a longer gap between visits. At first, it appears to be nothing more than space. Nevertheless, as time passes, that space gradually transforms into a sense of solitude. A person will eventually start to wonder if anyone still notices them at all. And this will happen before long. In point of fact, emotional connection is not merely something that we take pleasure in. It is something that we require, particularly as we have gotten older. I would want to tell you about Ruth, a widow who is 78 years old and who had always been surrounded by friends when she was younger. Nevertheless, as time went on, a few of my pals relocated. Others have passed away. Her offspring grew preoccupied with their own lives and work. In addition, she started to experience a kind of discomfort that was not physical. Despite the fact that she did not like to complain, it was a more profound sensation. A sense that no one truly knew her anymore, that her tales did not have a place to rest, and that she was gradually vanishing. It was not noise or activity that Ruth was lacking, rather, it was connection of some kind. This is the kind of feeling that comes from being fully heard, from laughing with someone who understands your history, and from sitting quietly with someone who merely cares that you are present. We get our sustenance from that kind of relationship. It serves as a reminder that we are important and that we belong. It is now common knowledge among medical professionals that emotional isolation is just as detrimental as chronic disease. It is associated with increased levels of stress, an increased risk of dementia, and even a reduction in lifespan. Beyond the realm of science, however, there is something that is even more pressing. The worst part about loneliness is that it tells individuals that reaching out to others is a burden when, in truth, it is a lifeline. Loneliness is a burden because it steals joy. It makes the days gloomy. It makes everything feel a little heavier. And it makes everything even tougher. On the other hand, a large family or a packed schedule are not always prerequisites for connection. Sometimes it all begins with a single relationship that you maintain on a regular basis, such as a neighbor with whom you check in once a week, a group that you get together with twice a month, or a cousin that you phone every Sunday. Becoming a member of a reading club, a walking group, or even participating in a virtual conversation could be necessary. Being surrounded by others is not the goal, rather, the objective is to experience being emotionally seen by even just one person. Now, if you feel like that is a long way off, begin with a small step. Take the time to smile at someone at the shop, write a note to a relative, or ask for assistance with a technical problem. Do these things not simply because you are in need of assistance, but because, as you are aware, connection is created via the small moments of shared effort, mostly due to the fact that everybody wants the same thing, which is to be known, to be missed, and to be cared for more than anything else. It is not because life has become more difficult that misery begins to take hold when that disappears, rather, it is because it is no longer shared. However, when even a single thread of connection is rewoven, something shifts. Life becomes cozier, lighter, and more deserving of being woken up for. The fourth habit is the practice of engaging in mental stimulation and inquiry. At the point in time when the body begins to slow down, the intellect is one of the greatest endowments that we still possess. In spite of this, the gift is frequently left unwrapped, sitting silently in the background. It observes the repetition of routines, the contraction of talks, and the dulling of novelty. If you do not have any new mental stimulation, if you do not have the excitement of a new concept, or if you do not have the challenge of figuring anything out, then life will start to feel dull, not necessarily painful, and over the course of time, that monotony transforms into a subdued type of misery. I would want to tell you about Leonard, a retired accountant who is 83 years old and used to take great pleasure in finding solutions to difficulties. Upon his retirement, he experienced a sense of relief because he would finally have time to relax. However, the days quickly got monotonous. He stayed up late watching the same shows, reading the same columns in the newspaper, and going to bed feeling more exhausted than inspired every night. The change in his life didn't occur until his granddaughter gave him a collection of crossword puzzles as a gift. In the beginning, he had a hard time finishing even the simple ones, but he persisted in doing so, and before long, he was looking forward to them every morning. His memory became more clear, his disposition improved, and most importantly, his naturally inquisitive nature came back. Use it or lose it is a common phrase used by medical professionals. But what they truly mean is this: in the same way that your muscles require movement, your brain requires stimulation. It is a creature that craves stimulus. And when it is deprived of that stimulation, boredom begins to sneak in slowly, softly, and frequently without being recognized. When boredom persists for a certain amount of time, it starts to cause a decline in delight. However, the contrary is also true. Whenever your mind is reawakened, you will have a sense of the world expanding once more. It is not necessary to study philosophy or acquire a new language in order to stimulate one's mind. Although these activities might be beneficial, reading a book from a different genre, learning a new game, experimenting with a new recipe, or even asking questions that you have never asked before are all examples of what it may entail. It could be anything as straightforward as keeping a record of your thoughts, figuring out how to use a new software, or solving riddles. It is not perfection that is the point, rather, it is participation, in spite of the fact that the world is trying to tell you that you have had your turn. It is the willingness to continue participating that is essential. Moreover, here is something that should be kept in mind. A resilient emotional state can be achieved by mental stimulation. You have a greater capacity for change when your brain is engaged. You have a more positive outlook. You have a greater capacity to discover significance in previously unanticipated areas. A light that enables you to perceive what is yet possible, rather than just what has already passed, is the light that is provided by curiosity. Certain individuals have the misconception that becoming older entails settling into habits that never change. Yet this is a prescription for peaceful isolation. At the age of 60 or 70, growth does not cease, rather, it merely takes a different form. At this point, the questions are different, the tempo slows down, the need to learn, to explore, and to experience a sense of mental vitality is still present. However, at all times, it has been. Every day, if you pay a little bit of attention to that aspect of yourself, you will notice that something significant takes place. You have a greater sense of awakeness, consciousness, and curiosity in the world that surrounds you. In addition, once it is ignited, that spark fights back against the shadows that are brought about by stagnation and repetition. I would appreciate it if you could use the fourth comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. The fifth factor is the existence of a sense of self-worth and dignity. At some time in your life, you will reach a point where the world will no longer view you in the same manner. The cashiers speak more slowly. They speak over you. The doctors, without being questioned. Members of the family make decisions. And gradually, without anyone's intended intention, you start to feel like a small person, almost as if your value has decreased in some way. It's as if you're nothing more than a mere background character in the hectic life of everyone else. However, here is the reality. Growing older does not diminish the significance of who you are. Your lack of certain abilities does not make you less deserving of respect. And just because you are in need of assistance does not mean that you have lost your dignity. The true source of suffering in old age is falling into the trap of forgetting your value. Or even worse, being treated as if it has been lost. Please allow me to tell you about Carol, a former nurse who was 77 years old and had spent decades caring for other people when she retired. But she noticed that people began treating her differently after she fell and became dependent on a walker as a result of the injury. Instead of talking to her, conversations went around her. She was regarded to be incapable of independent thought by strangers. Even members of her family started speaking in a more subdued manner, as if she were delicate because of everything. Carol was not resentful of the assistance. The thing that she lacked was the deference, the feeling that she was still able to make her own decisions despite her age. Rather than the walker, the thing that wore her down was the loss of her dignity. Both medical professionals and researchers are coming to the realization that it is of utmost importance for elderly people to have the sense that they are being recognized, appreciated, and participating in their own life. The health of individuals often improves when they are treated with dignity, when they are provided with options, when they are asked for their thoughts, and when they are treated as equals. It boosts their self-assurance. Not only that, but most importantly, their spirit is not broken. This, however, causes something to start shutting down when it is absent. It is not just the emotional but also the physical, as a result of the fact that there is nothing more draining than the sensation that you do not matter. Furthermore, it is not solely about how other people regard you. The way in which you treat yourself is also important. Are you still being kind to yourself after all this time? Do you give yourself credit for the experiences that have shaped you, the wisdom that you have gained, and the endurance that you have shown? When you look in the mirror, do you see someone who, even on the most difficult of days, still deserves to be respected? Earnings are not the source of one's sense of self-worth. It does not come from having a youthful appearance or moving quickly. It is a result of recalling your personal narrative, from the realization that you have lived, loved, lost, learned, and continued on with your life, which is worthy of praise. Every wrinkle has a valid explanation. Each scar has a specific name. And each day that you continue to show up is a silent demonstration of your strength. This should serve as a reminder to you that your value was never determined by how quickly you could walk or how much weight you could carry. Even if the world has made you feel like you are invisible, titles and outward appearances were never on the agenda. Having presence is the key. Concerning your identity, in addition, the person that you are right now, in the way that you are, is still required, still valuable, and still profoundly deserving of dignity. This brings us to the sixth point: the sensation of being required by someone or something. When you no longer feel that you are required, you may experience a kind of peaceful emptiness that creeps in about you. Unlike loneliness, this is not the same thing. This is a more profound matter, something that resonates with your feeling of purpose and direction. When you are no longer sought after for guidance, when your presence is perceived as merely optional rather than important, and when you are able to vanish for a few days without anyone noticing, then is when the true burden of old age might begin to exert its influence. It's because, at our core, each and every one of us yearns to be significant to someone. It is important to us that our lives continue to contribute something to the lives of others. Please allow me to tell you about Frank, a man who was 84 years old and had been a rock to his community, as well as a man who had founded a business and reared a family. However, something changed in his latter years, when his wife had died away and his children had relocated to a distant location. Without a doubt, they continued to love him. Occasionally, they would call, but there was no longer any interaction on a daily basis. There are the favors, the little questions, and the occasions where you ask, "Can you help me with this?" In the absence of those, Frank started to experience the sensation that he had gradually become invisible. The world seemed to function normally without him. Then, however, a child from a neighbor began coming over after school to simply talk to the neighbor. In addition to encouraging her to draw, Frank would also listen to her ideas and share tales with her. It was a little period of time, about 15 minutes, a few times every week. As a result, everything was altered. There was something he needed to be ready for, someone he was looking forward to, and someone who required his presence, not because of who he had been in the past but because of who he was now. A decrease in sadness, a reduction in cognitive decline, and even an increase in life expectancy have all been found to be associated with a sense of usefulness, even in the most insignificant of ways. In addition to the research, however, there is something that is much more significant. The feeling of being wanted restores hope. Your presence is warranted as a result of this. It forces you to step outside of yourself and into the world around you. And it's not always the family that is the source of having a need. There are times when it is the dog that waits for you to walk it, the buddy who depends on your phone call, the volunteer organization that misses you when you miss a meeting, and the neighbor who gets excited when you wave from the porch. It is not the number of people who require your assistance that is important. What is important is that at least one of them does. And if you are currently sitting there believing that no one more requires my services, allow me to dispute that notion. No matter who you are, there is always someone who could gain something from your presence, your knowledge, or your generosity. Someone younger, someone who is lonely, someone who is struggling, or simply taking the initiative to reach out to someone else in order to offer encouragement can start the circle all over again. You will start to perceive your life through a different lens when you begin to feel that you are required. Once again, you have the sensation that you belong. You stand a little straighter, and you care a little more than you did before, mostly due to the fact that the urge to be needed is something that we never outgrow. And when that need is satisfied, even in a private and unassuming manner, it makes life more delightful, more complete, and much more deserving of being lived. I would appreciate it if you could use the 6th comment section below to let me know that you are continuing viewing this video and that you are finding these insights to be helpful. I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any videos. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. Let's proceed with our plans now. Lastly, some thoughts. If you have made it this far, I want you to take a moment to pause and think about what you have experienced. Not only what you have heard, but also what you have felt. Possibly, something caused a commotion. It's possible that one of these 6 things seems almost too familiar to you. It's also possible that you come to the realization that the things you've been lacking in your life aren't as complicated as you once believed they were. Because, in reality, old age is not a dreadful experience in and of itself. It is the lack of the things that give us a sense of being alive that is responsible for the sensation at hand. Let's take a look at a routine that has a purpose and helps you navigate your day. Energy-giving physical routines that you engage in. Intimate connection that serves as a constant reminder that you are not alone. The stimulus of your mind that helps to keep your mind sharp. Your sense of self-worth that upholds your dignity. In addition, the sensation of being required by a person or other entity. You do not need to be in great health, have a full calendar, or possess youthful strength for any of these. It is sufficient to have the intention to reach out and the readiness to do so in order to fulfill what your spirit already knows you require. These 6 elements are like partners who are not overly loud. They do not yell at all. They do not make any demands. On the other hand, life is more fulfilling when they are there. And even if you don't have the words to express it, you can feel it in your bones when they are no longer there. This is the final thing I want to say to you. It is not too late to do so. It doesn't matter if you're 60 or 90 years old. Today is the day you can start putting up what you've been lacking. Simply one minor action, a brand new routine, just a single phone call, one choice to recognize and appreciate your own value, even if no one else is aware of it at the moment. We appreciate you being here with us today. It would be wonderful if you could get in touch with us. Please leave a comment below and tell us about one item you discovered today and how you intend to put it to use in your life right now. We place a high value on your opinions, so please do not be reluctant to share them with us. Our inspiration and encouragement are greatly increased as a result of reading your remarks. I would appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and share this video if you found it to be informative and enjoyable. With your assistance, we are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you. We appreciate you taking the time to watch, and we hope to see you in the future video.